Lock second season of the anime has just been completed, adapting the Japan U20 match, starting back in chapter 113 and ending in chapter 149. During that game, we saw a total of 7 goals be scored, all being insane ones that to this day exist in many fans' lists of the best goals in the entire series. But when looking at these 7 goals that were scored, which of them is actually the best? In today's video, we'll be looking at each goal scored during the U20 match, and I'll be explaining why I rank them where I do on the list. Before getting into that though, I want to leave a spoiler warning for the U20 game of BLUELOCK, so if you are not finished with season 2 or caught up to chapter 149, I would suggest you click off the video now if you wish to not be spoiled. Now when addressing these 7 goals scored during this match, I want to first come out here and say that these are ranked by my own personal opinion. You are completely entitled to your own opinion and your own ranking in your own list, however that also applies to me. Now when ranking these goals, I'm not only going to be going off of the anime's adaptation of the goal, but also how much I like this goal in the actual manga. Now starting at the bottom of the list, we have Yoichi Isagi's left-footed precision shot, which was scored in episode 31 of the anime, or chapter 115 of the manga. Now this goal, when I first read it in the U20 game, was actually one of my favorites. I mean, as a manga reader, we didn't know anything about Sai aside from the fact that he was one of the best players in the generation and Rin's brother. And in that chapter, we finally get to see all of what Sai is actually capable of, even when he isn't trying. However, this goal unfortunately was ruined for me when it was adapted into the anime. This goal was used to set the precedent for the game, saying that in order to win against this national representative team, you need to score goals that are just as insane as that or better. And when it was adapted into the anime, that goal was probably one of the worst looking ones of all. I mean, the episode was even titled Itoshi Sai, and yet it wasn't even the best goal scored in that episode. And while Sai is my favorite New Generation 11, this goal was easily the most disappointing in the entire game. Now if we were doing a tier list, I would put Sai's goal in the mid goal category, but now we've entered the tier goals that I would consider to be pretty good goals. Now I've seen the takes go around about this goal on both YouTube and TikTok, but my opinion of it is actually quite different than others. In 6th place, we have Burū Rokku's sliding goal scored in episode 36 of the anime or chapter 138 of the manga. Now this goal is actually one that I can understand why it gets the hype, but unfortunately I'm just not on that train. Sure, Burū is a really cool character and according to my girlfriend is the absolute GOAT. However, I'm just not that big a fan of him or this goal. Sure, the art is incredible and reading it in the manga was definitely a shock to me. However, in the anime, I just didn't get the same amount of hype as I did for the other goals. With 8-Bit's issue revolving around their animation department and the production committee, I understand why BLUELOCK Season 2's animation was fluctuating in terms of quality, but it just so happens that Burū's goal seemed to be on the lower end of that scale in terms of quality. The goal definitely wasn't bad by any means, but the actual sliding of Burū was kinda weird, as well as his celebration. We didn't even see him take his shirt off, it was just off, and it felt a little bit weird to me. Knowing how 8-Bit does Burū, I was really expecting something a lot more intense, especially given the goal's art in the manga. But they not only changed the angle at which the goal is scored, but it also just wasn't as hyped to me. Sorry Burū fans, the goal just wasn't as good as it was in the manga. Following Burū though is a player who I believe that with Burū creates the best rivalry in the entire series, that being Seishiro Nagi in his jumping turn goal scored in episode 31 of the anime or chapter 117 of the manga. When looking at both Burū and Nagi's goal, I see people rearranging both of these goals on their list in terms of the best. The only difference for me personally when it comes to ranking these 2 goals actually comes from personal bias. Listen, I do like Nagi more than I like Burū, but that doesn't mean that this is the only reason that I rank his goal above his. There are actually 2 main factors as to why I rank Nagi's goal above Burū's. The first being the narrative in which the goal was scored. Nagi's goal was the first one scored by BLUELOCK, which revitalized their egos after Sai's goal, which won the stadium's favor for the match. It shifted the view of everyone in the stadium, and I'm literally quoting here, was the BLUELOCK project actually successful? And now, it's no longer clear who the hero of this match is. Burū's goal did bring BLUELOCK back to a tie, but Nagi's goal was what kickstarted BLUELOCK's destructive path into winning the game. Well, Nagi and Rin, because let's be honest here. Rin carried hard. The other factor was just the straight up adaptation. When looking at Nagi's goal, there wasn't really a way you could mess it up, even by PNG lock standards. It was probably one of the more basic goals in terms of animation from this game that there wasn't a lot of room to mess up. You get what I mean? This was the moment that people were saying, oh my god, is PNG lock over? PNG lock is done for. BLUELOCK is back, for real, for real. And trust me, I know this because I was saying the exact same thing. But overall, the goal was decent. It wasn't superb, it wasn't insane, but it was pretty good. But that just mostly comes from the fact that there wasn't a lot of room for them to mess up. But now we've reached the top of the pretty good tier list in terms of goals, and this one is actually one of my favorite goals scored by a character in the entire series. that being Rin Itoshi's Trivela goal scored in episode 32 of the anime or chapter 120 of the manga. Between Barō, Rin, and Nagi's goal, I could reasonably see anyone rank them interchangeably. However, for Rin, the reason this goal sticks out above the other two is really hinged on the same reasons as Nagi's. The entire build up to this goal was excited in the anime, and it was a really nice direction decision for this specific shot. This goal is actually my favorite in the manga from Rin, and I just love the outside spin with his foot and the aura trail coming from the kick itself. It just feels so graceful and technical. Spoilers for the NEL, by the way, so I'll just wait a few seconds. It also gets copied by Ryo in the next arc, which is just as cool of a panel because I love his copy effects in the manga. But going back to the goal itself, it's so technical and graceful and beautiful in the manga. However, the anime seemed to have the opposite effect, making the scene feel more intense and powerful, especially with the kick itself, which I think is great considering most of the goals this season seem to lack impact. While I'm a little upset that the aura wasn't really visible on the kick itself, as that's one of my favorite parts of the original panel, that doesn't diminish how much I still enjoy this goal and this shot. Because the U20 arc is really more centered around Rin, the direction and creative choices made by the studio are ones that I actually really like in relation to the good animated sequences. But now we've reached the top 3 goals, and if you are enjoying this video so far, leave me a like and subscribe down below to see more awesome Blue Lock content just like this. I also have a Discord server called the Neo Egoist Geeks, which you should totally join. The link to that is down below. Rounding off the top 3 is a goal that everyone was hyped up to see and also brought the U20 team back to a tie, that being Shiro Ryuse's Dragon Drive, scored in episode 34 of the anime or chapter 127 of the manga. Saying Shido's Dragon Drive goal is one that deserves to be in the top 3 in the U20 game doesn't seem that outrageous to me. Listen, I'm a Shido hater, right? But this goal was definitely something. He managed to score this goal after being on the pitch for less than 10 minutes. And while this goal was heavily assisted by Sai and his precision passing, seeing this goal happen was honestly pretty insane. It was the first chemical reaction ever performed by Shido as a participant. It brought the U20 team back to a tie against Blue Lock. It almost made Shido come. And while I'm not the biggest fan of the goal in the manga, the anime adapted it just as good, if not better. First off, the entire scene felt so fluid. There was barely any stiffness to the animation that it felt actually enjoyable to watch. I mean, after we got the Rin vs Sai round 1 looking like a PowerPoint, you can definitely tell when something feels higher quality. And with Chiggity's insane sprinting cuts that we should have gotten back in episode 32, it definitely supplied some hype. Then the repeated shots of Shido kicking from different angles just tied it all together beautifully. While Shido is definitely not my favorite character, this goal is by far one of my favorites in the entire season. But even with that goal being considered to be one of the best, it isn't even one of the best ones that Shido has scored this season. Because in our number 2 spot, we have Shiro Ryuse's Big Bang Drive, scored in episode 35 of the anime, or chapter 130 of the manga. Before I go into glazing its anime adaptation, let's start by looking at the actual manga. Shido being the first player to enter flow and score a bicycle kick from that far away is literally incredible and one of the best feats of precision from Shido in the entire series. And while that goal is just as irreproducible as Nagi's revolver volley, it still remains as a fan favorite amongst the community. When I was reading through the U20 game, I was actually in class, and seeing this chapter and this moment, I actually got pretty hyped for Shido, which was a little bit weird for me because I usually don't get excited when someone says they're gonna knock me up. But going into the adaptation of the anime, this is probably one of the best sequences in the entire show. The animation and direction choices, the colors, the VFX, and the scoring were all incredible. The legit only thing I would have changed about this sequence was the moment that Shido actually hit the ball. As an editor who has actually done work on live action projects, the notice of them not cutting on motion really annoyed me. If they had simply added a single frame of intensity as the scene changed its camera, it would have been so much more beautiful. And I know that may sound weird, because like one frame, how does that impact the scene so much? Trust me, it does. But that was my only complaint with the cut. Everything else was absolute perfection. But come on, let's be honest here. The number 1 on the spot was literally a no-brainer. It's Isagi's luck goal, scored in episode 30 of the anime, or chapter 147 of the manga. In reference to the goal itself, it's honestly alright. I get the narrative impact and the hype behind it, being the goal scored at the last second, which not only let them win against the U20 team, but also let Blue Lock survive as a whole. I get that, but in terms of the goal itself, it isn't even my favorite Isagi goal. So then why is it ranked number 1? Well, that would be thanks to the anime adaptation. Everything about the final episode of the anime was literal perfection, and that goes for Isagi's luck goal as well. The tone set by the matchup, the cheers from the stadium being the only audio information we got aside from the players themselves, then leading into Isagi's goal itself, it was a literal perfect adaptation and then some. Taking the same direction as Shido's Dragon Drive and his very first Blue Lock goal, the change in camera angles with his kicks was such a beautiful decision. The hype and build-up as the ball flew into the net, followed by the roars of the stadium, just brought everything together beautifully. The scene was so incredible, it literally made people watch this episode over and over again just for that goal itself. Even me, someone who has read through the U20 game on so many different occasions, was unable to feel the same throw from that goal until watching it in the anime. And even on repeat, it is just an incredible scene that easily shoots this goal up to being the best in the entire arc. And that was just my ranking of the U20 goals from Blue Lock Season 2, ranked thanks to both the anime and the manga. I hope you guys did enjoy this video and will continue to enjoy it in the future. Now, unfortunately, the anime is done and won't return for another couple years or so. However, with Blue Lock's manga returning this weekend, we at least have that to look forward to. As for the question of the video, what was your favorite goal from the U20 game and why? Leave me your thoughts down below in the comment section. And like always, thank you all for watching, like and subscribe to see more awesome Blue Lock content just like this.